You're watching Beyond Market. Welcome, I'm Esther Awoniyi. Many thanks for joining us. On today's show, we'll discuss how to drive local participation in Nigeria's oil and gas industry. As always, you can join the conversation with the hashtag Beyond Market. You can send your thoughts, your comments to my Twitter handle too. It's at Esther O. Awoniyi. Now, Nigeria has set a target to achieve 70% participation of indigenous players in the oil and gas industry by the year 2027. Dr. Ernest Azudialu-Obiejesi, Chairman and founder of Nestoil Group, now joins me to discuss how to achieve this goal. Thank you for taking the time out to join us today. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
A local content, local participation. This is a conversation that's been on for several years, at least within the oil and gas sector. There's been talk about, the need for a transfer of skills to local players to help them have a bigger stake, if you will, in the industry. And we've actually seen that, happening under the auspices of the NCDMB, monitoring and ensuring that the Local Content Act is being adhered to. But let me hear your perspective in terms of the journey so far. As a player, you've been a long-term player in the industry. Those major changes you've seen that stick out for you between then and where we are now?
For me and for us in Nestoil, it's been quite a long journey. We've been in existence, or we've been actually in the industry 20 years before the law actually came into effect. But for us, we believe that it's a law that actually had helped Nigerians to participate in the oil and gas industry. But before then, the attitude of Nigerians towards projects, in oil and gas industry is completely different from what it is today. The facts, are all very clear. I mean, before the local content law came into effect, you have quite a lot of expatriates, in the oil and gas industry. In short, oil and gas industry was just a kind of place made for expatriate companies only, especially companies that come from the same countries where all the IOCs came from. So Nigerians were not actually participating at all. But those of us who were then in the industry were also trying to, impress or convince the expatriate companies that we can do some of these jobs if given opportunity, that we can also grow our own people to do some of these jobs. But it wasn't easy, and it was quite a difficult task. But over time, we got over that. So, but you can see the difference when it became a law to allow Nigerians, bid for jobs, do some of the projects, even create certain level of staffs for Nigerians in some of these companies. So it changed the whole attitude of Nigerians towards these jobs. One thing that actually is very important to note was that, you see, when companies like us, started weathering the storm to get into some of these projects that were actually reserved for the expatriate companies, we're given those opportunities by the IOCs. We tried it, and they can see that Nigerians can do it. By the time we've done it, first time, second time, third time, they now started changing their mindset. So one of the things that the local content law had done is to change that mindset on the part of the expatriate companies, that Nigerians actually, if given opportunity, can do some of these jobs, some of these projects, and even in the same vein, build capacity even for the future. So for Nestoil, that mindset and that attitude to be able to do some of these jobs brought a lot of change, even in the industry, because as one of the pioneer companies that were already in existence before the law, a lot of companies now looked up to us. And I said, if Nestoil can do it, why can't we do it? And many of them now started making those moves, started bidding for projects, and started growing from there.
Would you say that across the industry, for those serious players, they were willing to make the necessary commitments by way of investments, capacity building, acquiring the necessary skills? Because, if the NCDMB comes out and says we have to give this percentage to local players, obviously, the required skills have to be learned and acquired in the first place. But how was that?
Yes,
what did you see across the industry?
Yeah, but the journey of a long, they said that the way they say it is that
journey of 1,000 miles begins with
the footstep, the first footstep. You need to give people opportunity first for them to even start growing capacity. when Nigerians were given those opportunities, they started growing capacities, and it was not easy for at least certain level of works in the industry for Nigerians to be able to do it themselves and actually excel in some of those jobs. So that opportunity came. The real thing that has also happened is that Nigerians are now, at least they can now be bold enough to say, okay, we can do it. And saying they can do it, they have now actually started doing it. But I'm not trying to say that Nigeria already has all the capacity required, in the oil and gas industry yet. But we have acquired certain skills and we have built certain capacities that certain level of jobs can now be done by Nigerians, 100%. Within a country.
But would you say that same zeal in acquiring the needed capacity and skills and skill set, is that momentum still going? Because
yes,
it's just some of the jobs. I know the target is 70%, not, yes, taking over the entire industry by the locals, but, just that momentum in acquiring the other required skills, would you say that is still high?
Yes, it's still high. I can assure you that. I can also be bold enough to say that, loudly. It's still there because Nigerians, actually the ones that has acquired this, the ability to do some of these jobs, keep growing every day. A cool example is that, companies like EWT, which is part of our sister companies, we're able to, build vessels, fabricate vessels that have not been done anywhere, in Africa. We'll be able to do them in Nigeria. For the Gina project that just finished, we participated in it because we were given the opportunity just to build those vessels. And they now found out that because we had built some in the past, we were able to have the necessary machineries required to build what Gina needs. And we were able to build it. Those machineries were all part of Gina during integration. They were all built in Nigeria. So to some extent, Nigerian companies have acquired this skill and we keep growing the capacity, day by day.
Let's talk about the role of the Nigeria Content Development and Monitoring Board, how instrumental they've been in obviously starting and ensuring that the law, first of all, came about, and then enforcement and monitoring of compliance of players across the industry. How would you describe how they've fared so far and perhaps room for improvement?
Okay, talking from the point of a man who was there before they came into being, I can tell you that they've done quite well, very well in the industry, because this, before they came, it was just like a policy, or it was not like they were just talking about it. Nigerians have to be given opportunity or that. But when it became law and NCDMB came into effect, came into being, it became a different ballgame altogether. There were penalties. There were, if you don't go against any of the rules, any of the laws, then you'll be penalized. And most of the IOC companies don't want to be penalized. So
you would say that right now, compliance across the board.
You can feel it. Okay. We feel it every day because you have to start. Sometimes you need to get to a certain level of percentage before you can even cross over to do any project. If you don't meet certain percentage, both in terms of labor, or putting Nigerians, in the bids, that the particular bid cannot excel, cannot go through. So these are some of the things that NCDMB try to do. And for me, I believe that is the way to go. So people are beginning to accept that in the IOCs. They're beginning to also make it part of their rules that these laws has to be obeyed for you to go forward.
Now, quickly about on Nestoil, you being one of the players, you're also obviously complying with this law. And between Nestoil and your sister company, Nekonde,
yes,
95% of your staff are also Nigerians. Let's talk about talent, the quality of talent in the industry. How would you describe it? And how was it for you? Was it difficult? Was it easy for you to attract the right kind of talent for the jobs that were needed?
Yes, initially it wasn't easy, because we need to do a lot of convincing. We need to do a lot of talking to Nigerians to stay, and do some of these works, especially some of Nigerians who were trained overseas in the oil and gas industries. Then they now came back to Nigeria to work. To attract them, in Nekonde was a bit difficult, even in Nestoil. But you see, after about a few years of existence, those Nigerians have now begun to realize that this is their own country, and it's an opportunity for them to grow the industry in Nigeria. So by giving proper training, by making sure so that we encourage them to support what we are doing, we are finding it a lot more easy. That even out of the 95% we have Nigerians working in the the industry, we'll have across board different talents, almost everything we need. All the engineers, everything we need, they're all Nigerians. It's only
But most of them were they locally trained?
Yeah, some of them, hands-on.
Because there's also education. I mean, many of them, obviously, some could have been trained.
No. I mean, some of them were trained. Some of them were trained both in Aberdeen and in other oil cities all over the world. But coming back to Nigeria to work, they now found places where they can work and also contribute towards the growth of the oil and gas business. So I'm saying that for us, it wasn't easy before.
Okay.
Yeah, but now, having developed the companies and also having, given them the opportunity, and assuring them that we're going to continue to improve both in their, in their future skills and developing their talents, and also encouraging them, to grow, in their own line of, work. It made it a lot more easy for them, to stay in the company. So we have staffs now who are committed, dedicated, and even, growing the company for the future.
Now, still on the industry, I mean, we always talk about investments. The need for more investment, private investment to come into the sector. What we also hear is that, the environment has to be more conducive from a policy perspective. The government on one hand says, look, we're doing all we can to make the policy-wise environment more conducive, but we continue to hear that, it's not particularly satisfactory, and that the private sector, private players would like to see more. What is that? What more does the sector need? You as a player, what do you want to see? What more do you want to see?
First of all, I mean, one thing that we've been looking forward to is the passing of the PIB, okay, the Petroleum Industrial Bill, okay, passing it and creating that environment that is required both for foreign investors and also for those of us who are already, in the country to grow our businesses. So I believe that government has tried to do quite a lot to improve the environment in Nigeria, but there's still quite a lot of work to be done, because the environment, or what I call the non-passage of that PIB, affects investors who ordinarily would have put in their money in this country and try to develop the oil and gas business. But I don't blame them to some extent, because you need to have enabling laws that will allow somebody who's putting his money somewhere to know how he's going to take the money out. So the PIB thing is all about making the industry friendly, assuring foreigners and assuring investors that when they put in their money, the legal framework to to assess those investments and take them away, or at least guarantee the safety of those investments, are all there. That's what has not been done, and I think that should be a priority for the government now. Okay. I mean, to do that.
Dr. Ernest, we're just going to pause here, take a break, and come back and continue from where we left off. I've been speaking to Dr. Ernest Azudialu-Obiejesi, Chairman and Founder of Nestoil. Just joining us, Dr. Ernest Azudialu-Obiejesi, Chairman and Founder of Nestoil Group, is with me today, and we're discussing how to drive local participation in Nigeria's oil and gas industry. Thank you for your time so far. Let's quickly wrap up on the Petroleum Industry and Governance Bill before we talk about let's finish up on the local content, and then we'll go into the Petroleum Industry Bill. Now, for the Nigeria Content Development and Monitoring Board, there's a target of 70% participation by the year 2027. We're currently at 40%.
Yes.
I mean, share your thoughts with us in terms of how, if you see us achieving this target, and what 70% participation would mean for the industry, and what kind of changes will be visible if we indeed achieve that.
Yes, I mean, if you achieve 70% by the target date, there's going to be a lot of impacts or effects we are going to see in the industry, especially in Nigerians being able to do most of the things that will that ordinarily we spend money doing it with or doing such works with other companies that are not Nigerian companies, or bringing in expatriates to come and do the works in Nigeria. Is something that I believe also that is achievable.
But what are those specific things that we need to do to take us from this point, 40% to 70%?
Yes,
is it capacity building? What are those steps?
It is very important that that we look at it from your own point of view about those things we need to do, because I mean, we need to first of all also make sure that some of the issues that are actually preventing the NCDMB from implementing some of these policies, to the letter, are all looked at. For example, we have issues of security, in terms of the oil and gas industry, why some of the companies in the onshore and in the swamps are not doing any of the projects now. We need to look at the financial capacity of of most of the banks, or at least a policy directing the banks to to provide funds to support Nigerian companies that are participating in this industry. You know, it's a capital-intensive industry, so if there are no special funds dedicated to it, it will affect it. And also, more importantly, also is to ensure that there are a lot of training centers where Nigerians are going to be trained on hands-on. There's most of the schools, like the PTI and the ones that we used to have in Warri those days, many of them are not actually very active these days. I think the NCDMB is also trying to reactivate some of these training centers.
Should that be left to the government alone? I mean, training, I'm thinking, I mean, this is something that will benefit both the private players and the government. Is this something, could something be worked out where perhaps there's some kind of partnership with private players such as yourself? To make things faster.
No, yes, I agree with you to that extent. Government cannot be, cannot do everything alone. The private sector, has to, be there for, to support whatever government is doing. But is the local content law, the way it is now, requires some of these major supports that government need to do. For example, there's funds that each contractor or each project attracts to, to that board, which has run into millions. So the way those funds are disbursed to these companies to enable them access, funds to do their projects is also very important, because with those funds they can then now acquire some of the skills or some of the equipments required for them to participate. You see, one of the problems of local content law, or what of them does not be provided, is the way that the people who are trying to make inroads into the industry, can do it without actually looking for money, finding it difficult to get money from in other places.
It is a capital-intensive business.
It is. But I mean, you need to make sure that Nigerians at least have access to financial, institutions or loans that will enable them participate. I mean, about 8 years ago when we started, when I went into the oil and gas business, it wasn't like this. Even though there was no money, the banks were not capable of financing any of the projects in the oil and gas industry. But those days, the opportunities were like expatriates were doing the jobs, Nigerians were not allowed. But today, it's a different ball game. So they should be able to, have access to funds that will enable them, finance projects that they bidded for. So that won't discourage them if they have access to those funds. So if the security, of Niger Delta and where this oil is all taken also care of by the government, there will be an environment where Nigerians who are bidding for jobs can do them, one, on time, because the schedule is very important. You take a project for 6 months. Because of security reasons, community disturbances, whatever, it extends to 2 years. Then at the end of the day, the company may not be able to deliver such project. So it discourages quite a lot of Nigerians from participating. So when some of these issues are addressed, it will actually...
Well, for you, what would you say could be the biggest problem that could be the biggest hindrance in achieving that target? Of course, there are a number of them, security, as you also mentioned, but for you, in your opinion, your experience, what do you see that could be the biggest problem?
The biggest problem that I can see now is actually what I will call environmental problem. By environmental, I mean the environment where this business is. Okay. Which also underbelly the security. The major problem is that the environment is not conducive.
You're referring to the community?
Both community. That's why most of the IOCs are actually investing from some of those oil assets.
Many times when we hear about this community, disturbances, skirmishes, it presents itself like there isn't any solution. At the end of the day, these communities are people. And I'm just wondering, this is just my thoughts now. And I know that some of this has happened in the past where, there's community representation, maybe via the chiefs or, whoever, and they sit down with the IOCs and have some kind of arrangement. I'm just wondering, isn't it possible for expanded discussions, dialogue with these community members? Well, this, like I said, you're the player here. So obviously, there's so many things that that I don't know. I'm just wondering, is this a problem that doesn't have a solution?
It has a solution. It's just that this problem has been there for a long time. And when a problem stays for a long time, like cancer, it develop different parts, legs and whatever. So the community problems are a lot of, has grown into, a very serious problem. But when the IOCs, they invest from some of these oil assets, even with the locals, also find it difficult to manage the communities, because the communities are used to going to stop oil developments, and they are taken care of for money exchanges or whatever. So because of that, a lot of them do not understand that that's not the right way to go. So by the way they're going about it, it has discouraged, employing even violence. It has discouraged the IOCs to leave. Then the local companies like us that are now in are also using local means to manage them by bringing them together, trying to discuss with them and trying to also make them understand that we are like their brothers. We don't mean to do anything that will be against what they believe in, or try to destroy the environment. So it is a problem that can be managed, but I don't think it's a problem that has one solution. Managing community, there's no special technique to it. It's just that when it unfolds, you need to sit down, convince them, because at the end of the day, everybody gets back to the same table to sit down and.
You also have that. You had a challenge not too long ago, also.
Exactly.
I think that was that for Nekonde also.
Yes, for Nekonde.
How were you able to maneuver through that?
Yes, initially it was a bit difficult because these communities, when they have it, when they are so unhappy with you, they do go and stop all the operations, forgetting that stopping operations costs a lot of money. And when you don't produce oil in the community, you may not also have money to take care of them. So they claim that their monies were not paid on time, they have not collected what they want to collect. But the actual truth is that there's no end to satisfying the community.
What about getting the community somehow involved? I don't know, maybe by making some jobs available to them, maybe by way of training.
They're involved. Many of them are actually workers there. They're involved, but also when they're involved, they also want to do the works themselves sometimes. But, and if they don't have what it takes to do a particular job, they insist they will do it. And if you allow them to do sometimes, delays are caused. So it's just like managing them is a little bit more difficult. Like the one of Nekonde, we had to, at the end of the day, we told them, why don't we sit down and talk about this? Leave the asset. They refused for a few days, but that was exactly what happened at the end of the day. We sat down, talk about it, agree on what to do, and the timelines, what is due to you, what is not due to you. The point is that to get them organized, for them even to base their leadership, is also a problem. So it is a complex problem, but the solution is what the locals are doing like us, because they now see us as part of them, and we can always sit down and talk about these things. But it's a problem that you cannot rule out completely.
Okay,
yes.
let's circle back to the Petroleum Ministry and Governance Bill. We have, of course, this new National Assembly. What are your hopes in terms of how fast, how quickly they will attend to this bill and to get it up and rolling?
That is the prayers of every one of us in the industry to, keep asking, God to help us get the National Assembly to pass this bill, because we are beginning to feel the impact of what is happening to Nigerian economy because of this bill not being passed. So for me, I think that they are behaving as if they are going to give it the utmost priority, make it a priority item in the agenda to do it. But I cannot tell you, the timelines, because I don't know the timelines they have. But the members of the IPPG, Independent Petroleum Producers Group, which I belong to, okay, we talk about this in all our meetings. How do we try to get across to our brothers in National Assembly to push them to, implement or pass this bill, because Nigeria is losing quite a lot of investments to other countries like Ghana and other countries that just discovered petroleum, and we're not getting anything in Nigeria. Most of the IOCs are no more investing in Nigeria because of this PIB, and I believe that that's the only way to go. So I can't give you timelines, but I can assure you that from what we are doing and the way the new National Assembly is constituted, they keep promising that this is one of the first things they're going to do. Okay,
yes. I suppose we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. Now, final question. We're out of time. Still on the PIGB, what are you expecting? One big change, that will come into the industry that you're expecting or hoping would happen as a result of this PIG?
The PIB, if they pass it. No, the first thing I'm going to expect is that there are going to be major investment both in gas development.
Okay.
Yes, because I can tell you the international investment in gas development is not happening because of the PIB. And the gas, gas is the way to go, cleaner energy, and the power we need in this country, there's quite a lot of investments that's been expected, and it can only happen if the PIB is passed.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Dr. Ernest, thank you for talking to us today. Pleasure having you on the show. I've been speaking to Dr. Ernest Azudialu-Obiejesi, Chairman and Founder of Nestoil. We've been talking about increasing, driving more local participation in Nigeria's oil and gas industry. With that, it on Beyond Markets. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Remember that you can watch the show at 5 p.m. West African time daily and have access to all previous episodes of the show on our website. That's cnbcafrica.com. You can also stay engaged with the hashtag Beyond Markets, and of course you can send your thoughts, your comments to my Twitter handle too. It's at Esther Awoniyi. From myself and the team, it's bye for now.